back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, November 20th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat to create any thought or comment you want to see me acknowledge throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Jets, as they made another move yesterday after I concluded the show, and that was firing general manager Joe Douglas, which was kind of expected, but the timing of it, in my opinion, I was a little confused by. But again, this was going to happen. This was inevitable. So we'll get into that. We'll also talk about the current MVP race. We're starting to near the end of the regular season, so I just wanted to get into that discussion, talk about who is in the lead, who's up for that award. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Lions and their win over the Jaguars as they just continue to dominate. We will also talk about the NFC West once again, talk about the division race, and who will end up winning it. Who has the best shot with the remaining schedules that those teams have, with it just being so jam-packed. You got 3 5-5 teams, and the Cardinals are 6-4 in first place. So we'll get into that. And then I'll do my power rankings, and it was tough this week. It was definitely tough. So we'll get into that. I will give you my top 5 teams after Week 11. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Joe Douglas. So his tenure as Jets general manager ends after 6 years and was not great record-wise. There were people that were disappointed and confused as to why he got fired. But, the record does speak for itself. As the general manager for the Jets, he posted a 30-64 record, and his teams never made the playoffs. His season high for wins was 7, and that's a .438 winning percentage. And that was it. Well, that was in year 1. And that was the peak of his tenure, as this article on NFL.com says. And they did win 7 games last year as well. But, yeah, and look, a lot of people talk about how he did draft guys like Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, although Sauce has not had a good year. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. Yeah, he did draft some solid players. The problem is that the biggest one, and one of the biggest reasons why he is no longer here with the Jets, is because he took Zach Wilson with the 2nd overall pick in 2021. That is why he is no longer here. And had Zach Wilson worked out, there would have been no Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson would have been the guy. But Zach Wilson just never developed into that guy. His rookie season, he did show some promise, but it went downhill. And the Giants may deal with this similar thing where if Brian Dable and Joe Shane get a chance to draft their quarterback that they want and it doesn't work out, then they're definitely gone. If it's not after this year. So that's one of the main reasons. And then, of course, you go out and you get Aaron Rodgers. And back to the Jets now. You go out and you get Aaron Rodgers and you hope that he could turn things around there. but it's just been a disaster. And again, if Zach Wilson works out, they don't go out and get Aaron Rodgers. And everybody that got let go still has a job. But other moves moves he failed to make, is last year they should have brought in a legitimate backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers if he ended up getting hurt, which happened 4 plays into the season. And Zach Wilson had to step in. And you had Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle. Those are not legitimate backup quarterbacks. You know, you go back to last year and you see how many backup quarterbacks started and how well some of them did. The Jets should have tried to get somebody that could come in and win a couple of games. But they didn't do that. And people point to last year as maybe being the year that the Jets really could have competed, because the defense this year took a massive step back. And had Rodgers not gotten hurt last year, who knows? Who knows what happens? You know, the defense played well last year. You still would have had it at full strength. Some of the guys that they let go in free agency or traded would still have been there. Maybe they would have traded for Devontae Adams last year. Who knows? But I think Rodgers probably still gets hurt. He's hurt right now. He probably still gets banged up last year too. So it's just, I don't know. We could play that game all day, but maybe it's true. Maybe it could have been last year, because the defense, like I said, has been a disappointment this year. It's just all facets. And you hear some reports and some articles coming out about Woody Johnson and how he let go of Robert Saleh without talking to Joe Douglas. He made that decision on his own. There was also reports that he wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers after the loss to the Broncos. To the Broncos. Not after the second loss to the Patriots, or the loss to the Patriots. They beat them the first game. The second matchup with the Patriots, they lost. Not that game. Not this past week. Not against the Cardinals. Against the Broncos. This was early on in the season. This is, they went they were 2-2 at that point. And then, he got pushback for that. So I thought that was interesting. And I wonder if Rodgers makes a statement on that. Whether it's his next appearance on the McAfee show, which I don't believe I don't think he made an appearance on it this week. So we'll find out next week, but it's not good. And I actually did go back and watch some of the Jets highlights from earlier this year. Specifically watching Rodgers and that first game against the Patriots. Now, again, the Patriots are not good. Now, this is, of course, with Jacoby Brissett starting. Drake May looks like he could be the guy there. But I went back and I watched some of the highlights from earlier this year. And the Patriots game was the best Rodgers looked all year. But he was moving around in the pocket. It's not like he was chucking the ball 50 yards down the field, but he was throwing some good passes that weren't just checkdowns. So, partly why Rodgers has been a disappointment is, and Boomer Esiason, I listened to a segment on his radio show this morning, said the same thing, which I think we all know, but he's playing hurt right now. That's why he's got to get rid of the ball quickly. That's why he's always checking it down to Breece Hall. He's playing hurt. And, had he not gotten hurt, had he stayed healthy this whole year, maybe things are a little bit different. But, the bye week is coming a good time for him, just to try to, get a little bit more, a little bit healthier. But he took a lot of hits this year. And, when he's going to be 41 soon, you're not going to be able to shake it off, like you were, 31. It takes a toll on your body. And, Joe Douglas did his best. He went out and tried to improve this offensive line. He brought in 3 new offensive linemen. He drafted one, Fashanu. Traded for Devontae Adams. Tried to put Rodgers in a better situation. And it just did not pan out. But now you got Rodgers, who's going to be 41. And I don't know what's going to happen. There's reports that, the Jets, the players are not really upset or angry about the record, but they kind of just want the season to be done. So they're kind of just going through the motions. And, I don't know what kind of record they're going to finish with, but it's not going to be great. Maybe they win 1 or 2 more games, but it's going to be a bad record. And I don't know what exactly their plan is going to be. I don't know what general manager is going to come in, what head coach they're going to bring in, who's going to be interested in this job. Now, they have talent on this team, and I don't know who's coming back and who's not. Are they going to run it back with Rodgers again, or is he gone? I mean, but if you hear that Woody Johnson was talking about benching him, he's probably not going to want to come back. But we'll have to wait and see. But this was a monumental disappointment on all fronts. And we'll see what comes about it when we get to the end of the year. But you just feel for Jet fans because, when Rodgers first got there was optimism. There was hope. But once he got hurt last year, that was kind of it. Because even going into this year, my friends, my coworkers, family, there wasn't a lot of optimism. There didn't seem like, oh yeah, this team is going to be really good this year. It was, we'll wait and see. And it hasn't been good. It's been a failure. And there's a lot of blame that goes around. I mean, I've said it constantly. It's coaching, it's player performance, and it's ownership. All facets. And who knows when it's going to get better. New York football is not in a good spot right now. And I'll leave it at that. But let me know what you guys think about the Jets' decision. How do you think this season's going to finish out for them? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about the MVP race. Who's leading the race currently? Who are the top candidates? We'll get into all that when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to get into talking about the NFL MVP race. You know, who's leading the pack currently? Look at the top candidates right now. And I think it's between two quarterbacks at the moment, and that is Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Right now, they are probably... Well, not probably. They are the ones leading the pack. And, you know, they're both playing really well this season. I know Lamar against the Steelers did not play great. And for some reason, against the Steelers, he just doesn't really play well. But it happens. And, you know, with the game that Josh Allen just had against the Chiefs and, you know, the win that the Bills picked up against the Chiefs, I mean, that kind of, I guess, put him ahead at the moment. But I do think that ultimately, I still think I would give it to Lamar. Kind of looking at their stats right now. So Josh Allen, I mean, he's been great when it comes to limiting the turnovers. Right now, he has 5 interceptions on the season. Each of his last 4 games, he has now thrown a pick, at least one pick. But on the season, 2,500 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And then looking at Lamar Jackson's stats, pull them up. Lamar has 25 touchdowns to 3 picks, and he's at 2,800 yards passing. He also has 584 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And when it comes to Josh Allen and his rushing stats, he has 316 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. So it is close. It is definitely close. And one other guy that had his, team had a better record at this point, Joe Burrow would be right in that conversation. Joe Burrow has 27 touchdowns to 4 picks. And he has 3,000 passing yards. So if the Bengals were 7-4 right now, Joe Burrow would be in this conversation. But he's not, because, I mean, he still is, but it's the record. The team record is really what hurts him and his chances. Because he's got more passing yards than Josh Allen. He's got more passing yards than Lamar. He's got more touchdowns than both of them. But, I mean, you're not going to give the MVP to a player that plays on a team with a losing record. Right now it's between these two guys. And also some other honorable mentions too. I mean, look at the running backs, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. They are having really good seasons. One of them is going to win Offensive Player of the Year, which is probably going to end up being Derrick Henry. He has been unbelievable. He has been as advertised with the Ravens bringing him in. That was such a great pairing. And, we'll see how he finishes this season out. I mean, he has scored a touchdown in every single game this season. And that was what Christian McCaffrey was doing last year. He's an automatic touchdown scorer. I mean, right now, he's got 13 rushing touchdowns. He has a receiving touchdown as well. But yeah, he has 1,185 rushing yards. And can he get to 2,000? We'll see. He's definitely going to come close to it. And then for Saquon, his stats on the season, he has 1,137 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. And you would think he would have more. The problem is when they get down inside the 5, the Eagles, they run the tush push, which, that hurts Saquon's chances of scoring. So, but he's definitely up. It's him and Derrick Henry for Offensive Player of the Year. And then also, Jared Goff, you got to put his name in the conversation as well. He's got 2,492 passing yards, 20 touchdowns to 9 picks. Got off to a slow start this year, but, myself and many others kept saying it's only a matter of time before he gets it going. And boy, have they ever. And we'll talk about the Lions in the next segment after their huge win over the Jaguars. And by huge, I mean they just destroyed them. We'll get into that in the next segment. But he's another name that you could throw in there as well with the kind of season that he has had. But ultimately, it's going to come down to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That's who it's going to come down to. Patrick Mahomes' name is up there, of course, because it's Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs, of course, were undefeated until this past Sunday. But Mahomes' stats are not where they should be. I mean, the passing yards, he's got 2,400 yards passing, but he's got 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. It's not great. So, we'll see if Mahomes could turn it around. But, a little surprised by, looking at that touchdown-interception ratio. And I was kind of hoping my camera would stop acting up, but, of course, it continues. So we'll see if I can fix it. And, okay, I think that might have done it, hopefully. But, anyways, we'll see what happens. Now, for the Bills, I mean, if Josh Allen continues to play like this and maybe the Bills get the 1 seed, then maybe you're looking at him as getting the MVP. The Ravens this past week struggled a little bit offensively. Lamar didn't have a touchdown. Oh, no, he did have a touchdown to Zay Flowers in this game. Ravens only the Ravens should have won on Sunday, if we're being honest. If Justin Tucker makes his field goals, the Ravens win this game. But it just didn't happen. And also you had Derrick Henry fumbling on the first drive of the game for the Ravens. So, that was a tough loss. But Lamar, outside of that game, I mean, he's been great. So, it's definitely going to be close. And I do wish the Bengals had a better record at this point, because then it would be, a 3-quarterback race between Burrow, Lamar, and Josh Allen. But he's kind of like that distant third player right now. Like I said, Jared Goff is there as well. Got to give him the respect he deserves. The Lions are the best team in football right now. And we will see the Lions and the Bills match up against each other later this season. We got that matchup a couple years ago on Thanksgiving, and that was a good game. And it will be in Detroit once again with those two teams squaring off. So looking forward to that. But ultimately, we talked about this in our production meeting, this topic, and everybody pretty much said Josh Allen. But I don't think it's set in stone on, Josh Allen's running away with it. Lamar, it's between these two guys. And it's going to go back and forth the rest of the way. Like I said, the Ravens had a little bit of a hiccup with the loss to the Steelers, but they should get back on track. And we'll see how these two teams finish out. We'll see how these two quarterbacks finish out, and we'll have a better idea of who really deserves it. But I think if Lamar is able to win it, that's impressive. 3 MVPs. I know we need to see more success in the playoffs, but listen, you can't discount 3 MVPs if he's able to do it. Josh Allen is a player that deserves an MVP. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time. And it's really only a matter of time before he wins an MVP, and maybe it is this year. With a lot of the changes that the Bills have gone through this year, trading Stephon Diggs, who was a big part of Josh Allen elevating his game, him no longer being there and Josh Allen continuing to put up big numbers this year with the different cast around him, or different pieces. Got to give him a lot of credit. So we'll see how he finishes out this year, how Lamar finishes out this year. We'll see if these two teams match up in the playoffs. I think the Bills would like to see the Ravens again, maybe, just to try to get revenge for that loss that they had earlier in the season, where the Ravens just ran all over them But we'll have to wait and see. We're going to see these two guys in it. We're going to see Mahomes in it, of course. Looks like C.J. Stroud and the Texans will win the AFC South. And, of course, you got the Steelers right now in first place in the North. You got the Broncos and the Chargers. So we'll maybe see Justin Herbert back in the playoffs. The Chargers continue to play how they're playing. And maybe we'll see a rookie quarterback in with Bo Nix and the Broncos, who looked really good on Sunday. So, should be fun. Playoffs always find a way to be good. But we still got some time before that. So, but let me know what you guys think. Who do you think will win the MVP in the NFL? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the super chat button in the chat, and this will create any thought or comment you want to see me acknowledge throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Lions and their win over the Jaguars as they improved to 9-1 on the season. And we'll just kind of get into that discussion. We'll talk about how well it went for them as they had an offensive explosion against the Jaguars. We'll talk about it from the Jaguars' perspective as well. We'll get into all that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Lions and their win over the Jaguars. It was pure domination. It's just two teams, like I like to say, two teams going in completely different directions. The Jaguars have been a massive disappointment this season. And the Lions, of course, they've been unbelievable all year. Their only loss, again, is to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. But this is their second game this season. And it's the second time against an AFC South team as well that they have scored 52 points. And this is their fourth game this season where they've put up 40-plus points. They have just been a machine this year, and that continued here. Now, surprisingly enough, the Jaguars got the ball to start this game, and they went down the field and kicked a field goal. So they were winning 3-0. And then the Lions outscored them 52-3 the rest of the way. Because the Lions scored a touchdown on their first drive, their second drive, their third drive, their fourth drive, their fifth drive, their sixth drive, their seventh drive. They did not punt in this game. Hendon Hooker came in and finished it up. But, yeah, Lions did not have to worry about punting in this game. There was a lot of punts by the Jaguars. Mac Jones, once again, was the starter in this game in the absence of Trevor Lawrence. and he went 17 of 29 for 138 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Jared Goff, 24 of 29, 412 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no picks. A good bounce-back game for him after the 5 interceptions last week against the Texans. And Sonic at Knuckles, they like to call the 2 running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Montgomery had 75 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Gibbs had 69 yards on the ground and a touchdown. The Lions, as a team, ran the ball for 196 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 receptions, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jameson Williams had a big game, 4 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown. Gibbs had a 54-yard reception. The Lions' defense, only 1 sack in this game, but really didn't matter. Brian Thomas Jr. was the leading receiver for the Jaguars. He had 82 yards receiving. Travis Etienne, 27 yards on the ground. Tank Bigsby was out for this game, but they just could not establish a running game. And no sacks by the Jaguars defense in this game. But the Lions just were unbelievable. You had the Montgomery touchdown on their first drive, the Gibbs touchdown on the second drive, another Montgomery touchdown on the third drive, 27 yards to Amon-Ra St. Brown for a touchdown on their fourth drive. Their fifth drive, Jameson Williams had the 64-yard touchdown. Brock Wright had a touchdown in this game. There was no Sam Laporta. Amon-Ra St. Brown, another touchdown. And then Jake Bates, from 54 yards out, kicked the field goal to make it 52-6. But the Lions are rolling right now. And I keep saying it, Super Bowl prediction looks good. Now, the Chiefs did lose this past Sunday, and they did not look great at times in that game. But it looks good. The Lions right now look like the team to beat in the NFC, and we've been saying that for a while now. Who could be the team that potentially knocks them off? Well, right now, I don't think it's the 49ers, just the way they're playing. They're not even in a playoff spot right now, so we can't really say them at the moment. The Lions played the NFC West this year, and they beat every single team. I don't think it's the Falcons, how inconsistent they've been. The Packers already lost to them. We'll see what happens when they match up against each other again later in the year. Could it be Philadelphia? Philly's defense, it's been playing really well. And they got the firepower on offense to compete with this team. Saquon Barkley, we talked about him in the last segment. He's been unbelievable this year. And, if they have their full array of weapons with A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith, with Dallas Goedert, you got a top offensive line that could block for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts can run with the football if he has to. That could be the team that could compete with them. And, we'll see if we get that matchup in the playoffs because we're not going to get it in the regular season. But that maybe is the team, one of the teams that could have the best shot. You got the Vikings and the Packers who are divisional opponents. The Packers split with them last year. The Vikings played them really tough this year, and, they blew a lead against them. They were up 10-0, but the Lions came storming back. And, Jake Bates kicked a go-ahead field goal at the end of that game. So maybe it's a divisional opponent, but right now I would look at Philadelphia as maybe having the best chance because I think their defense has really stepped up in recent weeks. So we'll see if we get that matchup in the playoffs, but you look across the NFC, it's going to be tough. Right now it's the Lions, and then it's everybody else. And they're doing this without their best pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, which, it's a huge blow to this team, but they just continue to roll. They're well coached, and look, they got an offense that can score points in bunches. And it's led by a quarterback that I like to root for, in Jared Goff. And they just have they have a very likable team. It's hard to root against the Lions right now. So, we'll see, how the rest of the season unfolds for them, but they look like the team to beat in the NFC, and they look like they're going to find themselves playing in the Super Bowl in a couple of months here. But now with the Jaguars, I mean, what a disappointment. They're now 2-9 on the season. It's just been, this season has been a disaster. And I had them finishing with 9 wins. You know, I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe, you know, the collapse at the end of the year was possibly a fluke, but it was not a fluke. This team is not good. And we'll see what happens with Doug Peterson. He's definitely not going to be back. And, you know, you gave Trevor Lawrence that big contract, and he hasn't played well. Now, he hasn't played in these last 2 games. Thankfully, he wasn't a part of this game, because that would have been a really bad look. But even if he did play, I mean, the Jaguars still lose this game. Now, maybe the score isn't as lopsided, maybe a little less lopsided, but yeah, it really wouldn't have made that much of a difference. The Jaguars have just been, they've been a disappointment. And you gave your quarterback a big contract, and so far he has not lived up to it this year. And I'm curious to see if, you know, he does come back this season, because, you know, he is dealing with the shoulder injury. But we'll keep an eye on it. But that's a team that's going to be going through some changes as well. Yeah, it's just ever since that 8-3 start for them, it just downhill. Everything has gone downhill for them. So, but they ran into a football team that is just clearly better than them in every way. And it's not the first time that a game like this has happened to them. The Bills on that Monday night, you know, they're not a good team right now. And they have lost some close games too. I mean, you know, losing to the Dolphins in week 1 where they could have won that game. The Texans, they were leading in that game. The Packers, they lose towards the end of that one. The Vikings game, look, Vikings did not score a touchdown against them. They lost 12-7. You know, if Trevor Lawrence plays in that game, maybe they win it. They almost came back against the Eagles. It's not been good. Their only wins have come against the Patriots and the Colts led by Joe Flacco. And that was a 3-point game. So it's just has not been a good year for them, and we'll see what they do at the end of the year, what kind of changes this team goes through. But they have been one of the more disappointing teams this year. And also a player that I want to bring up, what happened to Travis Etienne? I mean, he was one of the best running backs in football last year, and he's been non-existent. Like, what's happened? Brian Thomas Jr. looks like he's going to be a good player for them, so they at least have that. But Travis Etienne's been a disappointment. Christian Kirk dealt with injuries this year. It's been a disappointment. That's all I can really say about it. So, and I thought the defense maybe would be a little bit better. No, it's just everything has kind of gone wrong for them. And like I said, a lot of changes are going to be coming for them after this year. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about this game, though, between the Lions and the Jaguars. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know. So, when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the NFC West as a whole. We'll get into talking about the team's remaining schedules and who is most likely going to win the division. Who do I think will most likely win the division? So we'll get into all that. That will be the second to last topic of the day. It's turned into one of the more competitive divisions in football. Between that and, you know, you got the NFC North, of course. These are tough divisions right now. Unfortunately, except if you're the Bears, when talking about the NFC North, because, you know, they're the only team now that has a losing record. And it's on bad luck because they could have very easily had 2 more wins had it not have been for a blocked field goal and a Hail Mary. So, but we're going to talk about the NFC West, though, when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the NFC West and who is most likely going to win this division. So right now, currently, you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are 6-4, and everybody else, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers are 5-5. So let's go through the Cardinals' remaining schedule. So they come out of the bye. They will be in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Then they're at the Vikings, home against the Seahawks, home against the Patriots, at Carolina to take on the Panthers, and then their final two games are at the Rams and then home against the 49ers. So they got some tough games coming up. Now, I do think that they will at least split with Seattle. I think that's fair. I think maybe they drop this game. The Vikings game is going to be tough. I think I might pencil that in as a loss. They're due to lose a game. They have won 4 in a row. Give them a lot of credit to be at this point where you're in first place, and no one really had them in first place in the NFC West at this point. There were people that had them making the playoffs. I did not, but give them credit for where they're at here. So, like I said, I think they split with the Seahawks. I think the Vikings, like I said, could be a loss. So maybe they drop their next two. They're 6-6, and then they win and go 7-6. And then, look, the Patriots game could be a little bit tough just because Drake May has played well. But I maybe would lean towards giving the Cardinals the win there. The Panthers, I mean, we'll see how they look out of the bye against the Chiefs. But, you know, they've won 2 in a row, so that might not be as much of a gimme as it was originally. But I think the Cardinals probably still win that. The Rams, I mean, the Rams are going to want to get revenge because the Cardinals smacked them around earlier in the season, and they got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back, so I'd give them a loss there. And I think, you know what? I think the 49ers beat them last week of the season because maybe it comes down to those two teams. So I'm going to give them, like I said, win against the Patriots, Panthers, and then a split against the Seahawks. So that gets them to 9 wins, 9-8. I think that's what we could be looking at. Then we look at the Rams' schedule. They got the Eagles coming up, which is a really tough game, and I just talked about how well the Eagles' defense has been playing. If they match up against the Lions in the playoffs, that's one aspect of their game to look at. And yeah, their defense has played well, and we saw, you know, the Dolphins' defense and the pressure that they put on Matthew Stafford and how, you know, they kept the Rams out of the end zone. You know, the Rams had to kick a bunch of field goals, and I don't think that's going to happen in this game. I think the Rams will find the end zone here, but I'm leaning towards the Eagles in this game. So I might pencil that in as a loss. Then at the Saints are playing better. You know, they are playing better. Derek Carr has looked good these last couple of games. That could be a tough game for the Rams. But I'd probably lean towards giving them the win. So then they're 6-6. Then you got the Bills at home. I mean, right now I lean towards the Bills. So that could get you to 6-7. And then at the Niners, I mean, I feel like the Niners want to get revenge on the Rams. So maybe I'd give the Niners the win. And then you got the Jets, Cardinals, and Seahawks to end off the year. So you basically have to win out. I think they should beat the Jets. Like I said, Cardinals, you want to get revenge on them. And then you got the Seahawks. So maybe it's a win-and-in scenario there. So I think I also have them at 9-8 as well. We'll see, though. I mean, I think if they win against the Eagles on Sunday, that would be huge. That would give me a lot more confidence in this team. Because I did say I believe the Rams were going to go on a run. Now, I didn't expect them to lose to the Dolphins. I did not expect that. Had they won that game, then you could afford a loss to the Eagles this week. But right now, the way everything is, and looking at the wild card in the NFC, you need to win. You need to win out, or at least get to 10 wins. And then I think you should be good. 10 wins could be what wins the division. Maybe even 9. So we'll see. And then we got the Seahawks. So their remaining schedule, they got the Cardinals at home, which I said they would split with the Cardinals. Then they're at the Jets, which should be a win. So that would get them to 7-5. And I said they'd split it with the Cardinals 7-6. Then you got the Packers at home. That's a dicey game. I think that could go either way. I think the Packers are the better team, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Seahawks won. So we'll see what happens there. Then you got the Vikings after that. So they have 3 NFC North opponents 3 weeks in a row. They got the Packers, the Vikings at home, both of them at home, and then you're at the Bears. So that's going to be tough. And then at the Rams, final week of the season. Like I said, I think they would split with the Cardinals, so that would give them another loss. I think they lose to the Vikings, but that's not a guarantee. So that would have them at 7 losses there. Packers could be a loss. Rams could be a loss. I mean, maybe they finish 8-9. Maybe. I mean, give them a lot of credit. Defense played really well against the Niners. Geno Smith did not have a great game. It's going to be if they make the playoffs, it's going to be on how well Geno Smith plays down the stretch, which is kind of a no-brainer there. But still, if Geno Smith could play well towards the end of the year here, then it's possible that they get in. But they got tough games on the schedule. Like I said, the Vikings, the Packers, the Rams. It's going to be tough. Then you're playing the Bears on a Thursday night. They at least look better against the Packers. We'll see how they look, against the Vikings this week. But that could be a tough game. So we'll see if the Seahawks are up for the challenge. And then we got the Niners, and they have a tough schedule. They have a very, very tough schedule, and they're not playing great right now. So they got the Packers this week, which I think this game could go either way. You hope they get George Kittle back. That would be a huge boost for this offense. That's in Lambeau. And then you got the Bills on Sunday night the following week. And that's a Bills home game. I don't think the Niners are going to lose 2 straight. I think they're going to at least split these next 2 games. Then I think I would give them a win against the Bears. I'm going to give them the win against the Rams. At the Dolphins could be tough. The Dolphins have been playing better since Tua's come back. Maybe I give them the win there. The Lions, right now, looks like it's going to be a loss. And then the Cardinals, I said they would beat them. So I said the Lions was definitely a loss. I think they split the Packers and the Bills. So right now that would put them at 10-7. So, I mean, like I said, they have lost to each of their divisional opponents. They split with Seattle already. But I do think that they will get revenge on the Rams and on the Cardinals. And I think they will get to at least 10-7. That's what I'm gonna say. 10-7 they finish with, and that could be good enough to win the division. And the other thing too is Christian McCaffrey is still working his way back. If Christian McCaffrey can get it going, that will make a huge difference for this team. because they can just ride him, and they could that could take them to the playoffs. But the other thing too is, I mean, they blow leads. Their defense has not been good. Nick Bosa is banged up. You're still missing some guys on defense. So yeah, that's another problem too. And now Brock Purdy's dealing with shoulder soreness, and you don't want to lose him. Their backup is Josh Dobbs, who, last year he was a headline of the NFL. He was a story in the NFL for a little bit, but then, kind of flamed out. Brock Purdy cannot get hurt. That's one of the last people you want to see get hurt. He's been one of your durable players this year, in a year where there's been a lot of injuries. So, but the Niners have the toughest schedule remaining, but I would like to say that I would like to think that they are going to make a run here and are able to get into the playoffs. And look, it's not like their season is over. Like, we could sit here and say, yeah, the Niners might not be that good right now, but they're only one game back. They're one game behind the Cardinals. They're tied right now. They control their own destiny, because they play the Rams again and they play the Cardinals. Now, if the Seahawks win out, well, maybe they don't. But for the most part here, the Niners control their own destiny. If the Niners win out, or if the Niners go, 11-6, I think they're making the playoffs and winning the division here. And it's just hard for me to imagine them not being in the playoffs. But, we are now, we're going into week 12 of the NFL season, and they're 5-5. So, we'll see what happens. But, it starts with the Packers this week, which is going to be a very tough game. And like I said, the hope is they get George Kittle back. And, we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though. Who wins the NFC West? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, I still think the 49ers are going to be the team to do it. I'm not going to give up on them. But, if you lose this week and then you go into Buffalo at 5-6, it's going to be tough, because the Bills are playing really good football. The Packers, I think, of the two games between the Packers and the Bills, I would say it's more likely that the 49ers could win this game coming up than the game against the Bills the following week. That's just my opinion. Just a feeling that I have. But we'll see. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Who wins the NFC West? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about my power rankings for this week, my top 5 teams after week 11. And like I said, it was tough. It was really tough. The number 5 spot has been a revolving door, but also I had to make, a couple of changes with teams that have moved up, teams that moved down. The top 2 I think is going to stay the same for the most part, but 3 through 5, especially number 5, there's going to be changes mostly every week, especially at the 5 spot. But we will get into all that. We will discuss all of that when we come back, and that will take us basically to the end of the show. And, of course, tomorrow kicks off week 12 with the Steelers and the Browns. Weather's not supposed to be nice. It's supposed to be raining, windy. So, not the best conditions, but we'll get into all that tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll get you set for this weekend. Some big games. Niners, Packers is a big game this weekend. We'll get into that discussion. We'll go from there. So, yeah, for one final time today, make sure to stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into my power rankings for this week. My top 5 teams after Week 11. And again, it's tough. It is tough to do rankings. But here we go. At the number 5 spot. All right, this is the first time that they have made an appearance in my top 5 all year. But I had to put them in. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, you might be a little bit upset with me with who's at number 4, but I got them at 5. They're 8-2 right now. Would not have expected them to be 8-2 at this point. I had them finishing 9-8. I had them finishing with the worst record in the division because I thought the division was going to be better than what it is right now. They're in first place. And it's on good defense, it's on good special teams, and the offense doing just enough to get them wins. Russell Wilson did not play well in the game against the Ravens, but despite that, they still won because Chris Boswell, and I forgot about this because I brought up the playoff game where he kicked 6 field goals, but let's not forget Week 1 against the Falcons. He kicked 6 field goals and the Steelers won. And this defense is playing unbelievable. I mean, led by T.J. Watt. They got turnovers in big spots. You know, the fumble of Derrick Henry in the opening of the game. And then, of course, the interception later in the game off of Lamar Jackson, which was, I don't really think it should have been an interception. It should have been a fumble by Justice Hill. But anyways, this is a good team right now. And the thing that worries me is if they go up against a team. Now, they went up against the Ravens and they shut them down. They shut that offense down. Now, the Ravens, didn't do themselves any favors with Justin Tucker missing field goals and the turnovers, missed opportunities. But if they have to go up against a team that, puts up points against them, are they going to be able to, keep up offensively? Because we saw, against the Colts this year, and that was with Justin Fields at quarterback. The Colts were able to move the ball against them and put up points. And, the Steelers kept it close. But, it's games like that I worry about, is them getting into shootouts. Now, it might not happen because the Steelers play really good defense and, they run the football well. So maybe it never gets to that. But that's something that I do worry about. Because Russell Wilson, he has played well since he's taken over, but he could also have games like he did against the Ravens, but it didn't matter because they still won. So I'm curious to see when they play against the Chiefs on Christmas. I want to see how that game goes. My dad's a Steelers fan, so I have a rooting interest for the Steelers, but I'm curious to see how that game does go. Also because it's going to be on Netflix, and people were having problems with watching the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight on Netflix because it kept buffering. Now, my friends and I were watching it on a stream, so we didn't really have that problem. But the NFL has to make sure, the NFL and Netflix, they got to make sure that doesn't happen. There's no buffering issues on Christmas, otherwise fans are going to lose their mind. Although I do wish that there was buffering issues for Fox on Thanksgiving, because next Thursday we are going to have to watch, well, you're not going to have to watch it, but next Thursday we have the pleasure of Tommy DeVito against Cooper Rush. So that'll be fun. But anyways, I got off topic here. The Steelers, though, are at 5. And look, they're in first place. Give them credit. But this might anger some people. I do have the Ravens at 4. I just because they lost to the Steelers, I am not going to just completely throw them out of the top 5. But, like I said, the Ravens, they kind of hurt themselves in this game with the turnovers and Justin Tucker missing field goals. I still think that the Ravens are the better team when comparing these two teams. We'll see when they match up against each other in Baltimore how that goes. I mean, that's the game I expected on Sunday, a low-scoring game that the Steelers won. And that's what happened. But like I said, the Ravens had missed opportunities. Also, Derrick Henry was really a non-factor in this game. He had one big run, and then he had the touchdown, of course, later on that drive. Really, it should have been on the field during that 2-point try. I don't understand why he wasn't on the field for that. But this is still a very good team, even with that loss. The defense, of course, is a concern, the pass defense, but they did a good job at, limiting the Steelers to 6 field goals. So I still think this is a top 5 team. But I did drop them down a little bit this week. And, yeah, it is kind of odd to have, the first place team of this division still ranked behind the Ravens, and the Steelers just beat them. But I still think the Ravens are a better team than the Steelers. But that could change. If the Steelers go into Baltimore later in the year and they beat the Ravens, then, things are going to change. But for right now, I still have the Ravens ranked over the Steelers. But the Steelers are a good team, and there's some people out there that might be thinking I'm ranking the Steelers too high because, of how their offense is played. But they're 8-2. They're 8-2. They deserve to be in the top 5 right now. It's very close, though, because, the Eagles are another 8-2 team that are not on here. The Vikings finally dropped out of the top 5, although they played a little bit better against the Titans. But even against Jacksonville, I still, after the win against Jacksonville, I still had them up here, and they didn't play well in that game. But this was the week where I said, you know what, the Steelers are getting in just because, hey, you beat the Ravens. So, yeah, the Ravens are still, though, ranked ahead of them, in my opinion. I have them at 4. Then we got the Buffalo Bills. And, again, similar to the Steelers, the Bills should be ranked, maybe in some people's eyes, should be ranked ahead of the team that they just beat. I still got them at 3. I did move them up a spot, move the Ravens down a spot. Now, the Ravens, they did beat the Bills earlier in the year. That's why these rankings are hard. But the Bills are coming off of, Ravens are coming off of a disappointing loss. Bills are coming off of a huge win against a very good team in the Chiefs. Josh Allen. We talked about him earlier in the show. He's an MVP candidate right now. He's the leader in the MVP race, but Lamar is right there too. He made the difference in that game against the Chiefs. On 4th and 2, they go for it. He picks it up. He picks up the first down and he scores a touchdown. They went for the dagger and they got it. Because the Chiefs, I think, had they not picked up that first down, Chiefs probably win that game. But the Bills said, no, that's not happening this time around. And Josh Allen said the same thing. He's playing really good football. The defense forced a couple of turnovers. The second one was just Mahomes trying to, attempt a last stand there. But try to get a big chunk play and then maybe kick the field goal and then, go for the onside kick or vice versa. You still, go for the touchdown and get the onside kick after that. But either way, the Bills' defense has not been that bad this year. They've played better than I think people expected just because of, that side of the ball lost some pieces as well. But they're playing good football. They're 9-2. They're in the driver's seat to win the AFC East. They're going to win that, and they're either going to finish with the 1 or 2 seed, possibly. They got some tough games coming up on the schedule, but I think they'll be able to handle it. Well, the Niners, we'll see. The Niners and the Lions, those are the 2 tough games that are definitely on the schedule. The Lions game is going to be very tough because that's a road game. I would like to see them, if they went on the road and they beat the Lions, that would really impress me. Because earlier in the year, when they went on the road against the Ravens ran all over them with Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry has tormented the Bills for a long time. Derrick Henry has tormented a lot of teams for a long time. That's why the Ravens got him, because the Ravens were one of those teams. So I would like to see the Bills go on the road and beat a good team, because they're very good at home. They beat the Chiefs at home, so that's a statement win right there. But I would like to see them go on the road against Detroit and beat them and give them their second loss. Or if they lose before that, their third loss, whatever it is. That would really show me something. I mean, this game against the Chiefs showed me something, but going on the road and being a very good team, I think that's the next thing on the checklist. But I got them at 3. I still have the Chiefs at 2. Look, the offense, there were a couple of things I liked. Xavier Worthy got more involved in the first half, but then nothing in the second half. Travis Kelce was non-existent in that game. The Bills did a nice job at just limiting him. But, Mahomes had 3 touchdowns in this game. The defense did force a turnover. They're still 9-1. They could very easily be 8-2 had, they not blocked that field goal attempt by the Broncos. I still got them ranked ahead of the Bills for now. But I think if we start to see this team struggle even more and they start losing more games, then you're going to see the Chiefs continue to move down. But I still am going to have them ranked ahead of the Bills. It's very tough because the Bills just won against them. But I still got to put the Chiefs here just because it's only their first loss. And, that game was pretty close for a while. The Bills did pull away, even, to go up by 9. But, yeah, I still got the Chiefs at 2. But they got to, they still haven't played a good game yet offensively. I'm waiting for that game where Mahomes has like 4 touchdowns. He has over 300 yards passing. They are going to be getting Isaiah Pacheco back, hopefully, maybe this week. But at some point, the Chiefs are going to figure it out offensively. Maybe it's not in the regular season. Maybe it's in the playoffs. And then at number 1, this is the easiest one, the Lions. I mean, they're the best team in football right now. Especially now with the Chiefs losing, they are the best team in football. I mean, offensively, Jared Goff has been great. The two-headed monster, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The defense, even without Aiden Hutchinson, this team is just good all around. And, there's not really much more to say. Again, this is their second game of the season where they put up 52 points. They are blowing teams out. And, again, this looks like the team of destiny. Could be this team. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, to go through it again. So at 5, I had the Steelers, 4 the Ravens, 3 the Bills, 2 the Chiefs, and then at 1, I have the Lions. Let me know what you guys think about these rankings. What would your rankings be? Let me know in the comments. And with that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well to get their opinions on other topics, not just with football, but with other sports as well. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Greatly appreciate that. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna